Happy Sunday. Hi, everyone. I'm Larita. I'm your resident VA expert. I'm coming to talk to you today about can VA or take away my benefits or reduce my benefits. I'm going to talk to you about 3 ways you can prevent it from happening. And there are ways that perhaps you cannot avoid. But I bring up the question because I've done a video before about the PACT Act. Check that out in the playlist that I have. But a lot of veterans were hesitant to apply for the PACT Act because they were afraid that going under new examinations would trigger the VA possibly reducing their already rating. So I wanted to alleviate some concerns about that as far as applying for the PACT Act, but also address the fact when VA is actually able to reduce or cancel or take away your VA disability benefits and how you could possibly avoid it. So if you're new to the channel, I'm Larita, I'm an attorney, but as a disclaimer, I'm not your attorney. I will leave in the description box a link to options for VA accredited attorneys and veteran service officers, VSOs. I'm not taking on new clients, but I do try to give actionable tips to veterans like yourself to be able to navigate the VA process without any problems and be able to be successful in the end. So check out the description box for those links. And I also have other videos, a whole VA playlist about things that may be applicable to you, whether it be service connection, increased ratings for mental health disabilities, for knee disabilities, things of that nature, and also what happens if you were overpaid by VA, things of that nature. So we have a whole playlist of options for veterans. Now that I got that out of the way, if you're new here, I always start my videos off with shouting out to all the veterans and let me know in the comment section which branch of the military you served. I always forget one of them, so I'm going to try to make sure I don't this time. So we have Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marines, and Army. All right, let me know in the comment section which branch of the military you served. And then I like to see where our viewers are watching from. I'm in Texas. I like to see all over the country. Sometimes we have people watching from the Philippines, Guam, all over. So I'm going to start off by saying that the first way that VA is actually able to legally reduce or actually cancel your VA disability benefits is if you are an incarcerated felon or you are a fugitive felon. I'm going to share my screen, and what I see this happen with oftentimes are veterans who perhaps are service connected for mental health disabilities, and unfortunately they may not be getting the services they need, and perhaps the mental health disabilities have caused them to be in trouble with the law. That's oftentimes when I see this happening. And it's unfortunate that these mental health disabilities cause also future criminal activity, but that's when I see this happening. So if you're an incarcerated felon, after the 61st day of you being incarcerated for a felony, it's not for misdemeanors, if you are service connected for 20% or more and your disability ratings is reduced to 10% while you are incarcerated. If you're under 20% service connected, then it'll be reduced to half of what, let me just make sure I'm saying it right. Veterans less than 20% of veteran to whom the provision of the paragraphs apply shall receive 1/2 the rate of compensation under 38 USC section 1114A. So if you're service connected for 80% and then you get incarcerated for a felony after the 61st day of incarceration, your disability rating goes from 80 to 10, right? That's how VA can legally reduce it if you are an incarcerated felon. A way to get around that is if you have a spouse or a dependent parent or a dependent child and you're incarcerated, you can actually have your portion of your benefits apportioned to those dependent people, and then they can receive the full amount. You cannot, as a felon that's serving incarceration, receive the full amount, but you can ask for an apportionment to have all a part of your compensation sent to somebody else who depends on you. Like I said, it could be a spouse, a child, a dependent parent, depending on the need, and then they can actually recoup those benefits, right? So that's a way of kind of getting around that if you're in that situation or you know somebody that's in a situation. I mentioned too before that if you are a fugitive felon, not only you would not, so let's say you have a warrant out for your arrest for a felony under the law, whichever state it's in, you will not get any of your compensation. You go to 0% while you are basically fleeing the law. Until you get that resolved, VA will stop all benefits. The object of it is to prevent you from using VA benefits to evade the law. VA does not want to assist in that part. So That's a way that you can't really get around it. You just got to turn yourself in as far as for the warrant, and so that you can have your benefits restored. So that is the first one. Like I said, I often see it in, like I said, mental health for veterans who have mental health disabilities and they are not having it properly treated. Then I see that happen. So that's one way. Another way, and this is the most popular way that people think about when they talk about the PACT Act, and give this video a thumbs up because what it does is help the YouTube algorithm and pushes it out to the wider group and be able to help other veterans just like yourself who it may benefit. So be sure to give this video a thumbs up. The second one, like I said, comes up kind of with the PACT Act, right? So you are able to, VA is able to reduce your ratings under certain circumstances. Usually if it's over 5 years, if you've had a certain rating, it's going to be very hard for VA to reduce your rating, right? Because it's demonstrated that you've had this level of severity for at least 5 years or more with little likelihood of improvement of that disability, right? If it's under 5 years, it may be a little easier to reduce it because it may be a disability that's subject to improve over time, right? And in theory, right, you do want your disability to improve, but in practice, you don't want to lose that additional compensation that you're getting for having that certain level of severity, right? So it's a catch-22, right? You do want to improve, but you don't want to lose that extra money. What happens though with rating reductions, unlike with increased ratings, the burden is on VA, right? With increased ratings, you have to prove, the veteran has to prove that the disability has worsened. That's the veteran's burden of proof. On the other hand, with rating reductions, it's VA's burden to prove that the disability has improved and that it's not a temporary improvement, right? It can't be after one exam that perhaps that may have been just a good day for you, and VA's like, bam, we're going to, reduce it to a certain level. It has to show like consistent areas of improvement, right? So let's say you were at, let's talk mental health, right? 70% mental health rating. And then you go for another exam and then they say you kind of show 50%, right? But it's not for sure. It may have just been a good day for you that day. But in the VA treatment records, it shows that you've been getting treatment and you kind of maintain the symptoms that are equivalent to the criteria for 70%. That's not enough to say that there's been significant improvement over a period of time to actually warrant a reduction, right? They will propose a reduction. They'll say, let's come back in a certain amount of time and we'll see how you're doing. Another way I see rating reduction may be in skin disabilities, right? So sometimes skin disabilities have flare-ups at certain times of year, maybe the winter time or the summertime. So if you do exam in spring, when that might be a good time for you for your skin disability, but you know that, different times of year it flares up, VA cannot legally say, okay, there's been substantial improvement and reduce your rating because of the improvement that just happened for that one exam that was happening in a season where you normally don't have normal symptoms. So keep that in mind when you're concerned about perhaps having your rating reduced, because there is a higher burden for VA to kind of take away what they've already established for you as a rating, a disability rating. Comment in the comment section if this sounds like it's something that is of interest to you and you were wondering about this, because I know we've had quite a few questions about it. Like I said, mostly in response to the PACT Act and should I apply for the PACT Act? I absolutely believe you should. But this is some reasons why perhaps you just applying for PACT Act would not automatically trigger VA to reduce your ratings, okay? The third thing is, if you have certain benefits that are dependent on you having a renewal of your eligibility each year. So I did a video before about VA pension benefits that are for non-service connected benefits, right? So if you have an income that's below a certain level, you may be eligible for VA pension. I did a whole video about that. Check that out because that's not what's going to be discussed in this video. What's going to be discussed is how if you have pension benefits, you have to prove that your income is a certain amount and you have to show that certain expenses, things of that nature. And if you don't, you can possibly not be eligible anymore and VA can stop those pension benefits. So make sure you keep an eye out. Make sure you keep your address up to date because that's the biggest thing I see. People don't keep their address up to date. They don't get the notification from VA saying like you need to renew this, and then they forget. And then the only reason they call in the VA is because they don't get that money in their account the next month, and they call in to see why. And then it's come to find out, well, we sent this letter to you, you never responded. So, and we gave you 60 days to respond, you didn't respond, so we had to cut benefits until you prove it. Now, once they prove the, the income or whatever, they can have it restored. But in the meantime, you've lost that income for that period of time because you didn't do what you were supposed to do as far as verification. That also is the case with dependents. So often I see with the dependent spouse, you get divorced and you're receiving extra income because of the dependent spouse, or children who are school-age children, whether that be in college or regular schooling, to certify that they're in school, especially if they're over 18. Because if you're receiving extra benefits from them and they're not in school, you would not be eligible, and then that would trigger you being overpaid and have a debt with VA. So in that case, VA may say, hey, I need you to certify that you still have this spouse and these children. Otherwise, we're going to reduce your benefits by that amount because you're being paid for a veteran with 4 dependents and you haven't proven that you still have those dependents. You can possibly have your benefits taken away. So please keep an eye on notification letters from VA so that you don't have to worry about having those benefits removed. What's another way that you think that perhaps may trigger you having your benefits canceled or reduced? Let me know in the comment section and I can perhaps address that directly, but I wanted to make sure that you guys knew, first and foremost, there are ways that VA can legally cancel or reduce your benefits, but there are other ways that you can work around so that you don't lose those benefits that some of you depend on to live on a daily basis. Hopefully this video was helpful. Let me know in the comment section where you're watching from and which branch of the military you serve, and I'll see you in the next video.